Angle on DRTV. We'll update you with happenings in the business world as we look at prices, products, services, and the economy, and also bring you conversations around it. I'm Mercy Amarsawari. On the business news, the Central Bank of Nigeria has commenced the implementation of its 100 for 100 policy for production and productivity with the disbursement of 23.2 billion naira to 28 companies as part of efforts to accelerate manufacturing output and promote further diversification of the economy. Launching the program yesterday in Abuja, CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele said 79 applications valued at 121.887 billion naira were initially received through the commercial banks for projects in 6 sectors. From the figure, 28 companies with projects that have clearly articulated proposals were selected for funding. Nigerian's equity market opened this week on a positive note. The nation's stock market ended January with records increase by 9.15%. At the close of the trading section on Monday, January 31st, the Nigerian Exchange Limited NGX All-Share Index ASI rose by 0.91% from 46,205.05 points to 46,624.67 points, while the value of listed stocks on the Nigerian bourse increased from 24.898 trillion naira to 25.124 trillion naira, rising by about 226 billion naira. Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) has released a guide for bank customers and others on how and where they can make their complaints against financial institutions regulated by it. The Apex Bank stated that customers have the right to escalate their complaints to the Director Consumer Protection Department (CPD) when the banks, including commercial banks, microfinance bank, primary mortgage institutions, and discount houses, fails to acknowledge within 3 days or issue a tracking number, or fails to resolve the complaints within the timeline as stipulated by the Customer Protection Regulation. The CBN added that customers can contact the CPD through the Customer Protection Department, Garki, Abuja, while letter of complaint should be addressed to the Director, Consumer Protection Department, which can be submitted at the CBN head office or any of the CBN branches nationwide. That's it on the business news. Up next is our interview segment, and today we will be looking at the first subsidy removal extension. The federal government says it is proposing to extend the subsidy removal implementation period by another 18 months, is announced by the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Temi Persiva. According to him, the extension will give all stakeholders time to ensure that the implementation is carried out in a manner that ensures all necessary modalities are in place to cushion the effect of the PMS subsidy removal in line with prevailing economic realities. What's the implication of this on Nigerians, businesses, and the economy? To give a sense to all of this is Odomo Ife Chartered Accountant, Chartered Tax Practitioner. Good morning. Good to have you.
Good morning, Amra Sawore.
Okay. So, what's your reaction on the federal government's decision to suspend for subsidy removal?
Yes, this subsidy removal has become an issue of reincarnation. You know, in human life we have reincarnation. It doesn't stay, it doesn't go. The fuel subsidy of an issue has been on our table for too long a time, and we have a situation in our hands right now that the federal government is saying that they are extending the time. They are not telling us that they are going to entirely stop the removal. All they've just done is to postpone the evil day or the doomsday. But definitely it will be removed one day, because the way they are going about it, they have made up their mind to remove it. But because of maybe some threats from several quarters, the Nigerian Labour Congress most especially is making them have a rethink. But it's not a permanent issue that they will not remove it. I'm very sure, and I know quite well that they will remove it as time goes on. And again, too, you know, this is an electionary period year. If such things are packaged into the system, it may cause an uproar that will lead to mayhem, and the transition program of all the political parties in forming a new government will be jeopardized. So I am not shouting Uhuru yet, though temporary Uhuru, because it will still keep the prices at the barest minimum as they are now. When I use the word minimum, not that the prices are low, but the prices are going to remain at this level social life will remain at this level until we know exactly where we are going. Because everybody in Nigeria, their eyes and ears are wide open, expecting a change in prices. And once that is done, every other thing rockets immediately. Especially the petroleum traders.
Okay.
They are waiting every day to hear a new price so that their pump can be adjusted on the spot. Nobody wants to make a loss in his business.
Okay.
Yes, but when they reduce the prices, it can take a week to adjust their pump prices because they will tell you want to sell the old stock. But when they increase, they will not wait to sell the old stock they bought at a lower amount.
Okay. The conversation has been around repairing our refineries, or better still, building new ones, and the Dangote refinery and the Port Harcourt refineries, they are saying could come up to help alleviate this situation. How do you see that fixing the problem?
The only problem Nigeria has is maintenance culture. We don't maintain anything. A new government comes into office, he wants to outdo or undo the one that the immediate past one by starting and not finishing his own programs. What is wrong with our refineries, for goodness sake? How much do we take? How much does it cost the government of Nigeria to put our refineries in order? We are talking of refineries not working, epileptic refineries. But you are going to Niger Republic to build a refinery. Of what importance or economic use is it to us? It is zero. Look at a Warri Petrochemical here. Can't you get boys in this environment? Welders, we have industrial welders. We have, what do they call the other type of welding? I'm not into engineering, but there is one name they call them. Well, I will remember as time goes on. Exactly, X-ray welding. We have all those things in place. These boys will do this work. Must we wait for one expatriate to come and do them for us when we know quite well that they are cutting our throat? Are we not supposed to buy? There was a time we introduced a structural adjustment program. That was the time of IBB. Have we thrown that policy away? Can't we do with our own in-house people that we must go outside? The cost of subsidizing fuel in Nigeria for 1 year is enough to put all these refineries in order. But we shy away from the truth because of the singular reason that we are still breeding corruption. We are breeding corruption at the very highest level. Look at the licensing in Obasanjo's regime of 1999 to 2003 to 2007. They erroneously licensed billions of dollars tank farms, and you don't expect those people to just allow their money go into the drain like that. You are importing too much finished product of crude. Why you are exporting the crude? But the machineries to produce the finished products, you have them, but you allow them to go moribund. And we are not talking of removal of oil subsidies so that we can finance the import. Are you now saying that the machineries in all these refineries, are we going to dismantle them and sell them off, or how? Are they going to be there as an antiquity so that they will turn them to a museum and say Nigeria once had refineries that are not working? If it is only a foolish man, or let me not use the word foolish man, the Chinese proverb says, if you miss your way for 1,000 years and you realize that you are missing your way, you still have the right to turn back, and people will tell you, oh, you are well done. It's not only in the physical, even in biblical, the prodigal son. When he realized that where he was not comfortable for him, he came back to the father and said, look, Father, forgive me, don't even put me in your main building anymore. Get the place for me in the boys' quarter, but let me just answer your name. And the man said, no, since you came back, I'm going to treat you as my son, which has always been. We have gone astray for too long in this issue of this issue of refineries. What is actually the problem? Why are we afraid to put these refineries in order? Who is the person that is pulling the string? Who is the person that is behind the scene that is making us not to have a workable refineries? And they are paying salaries to these people. As 1990, if I could remember very well, 1991, somebody jokingly said the hampers of NNPC that during Christmas period is bigger than the salary of some ministries. Yes, and we still continue maintaining such structures, such establishments. They are not working. We borrow money to pay salaries. We borrow money to run the overhead, other overhead expenses, and you still now borrow money to fund subsidies.
Okay, what do you think if the subsidy is actually removed and we bear for maybe like 2 or 3 years? And a refinery is built, won't that be better in the long run?
Why do we go ahead and build refineries when we have refineries on ground? The only thing is to have the turnaround document and maintenance. TAM, turnaround maintenance. Okay. You put these ones in order first before you start talking of building a refinery. Do you know what it costs to build a refinery? I was reading a write-up on this Dangote refinery in Lekki. Okay. They said the underground cables laid inside that estate alone is enough to go around the world twice. If you lay it around the world, that is enough to go around the world twice. And if you look at this Dangote is not the only investor in that very refinery. We have so many people in Nigeria that even the government is involved. So why are we transferring wealth into the private hands and leaving the public at their mercy? Why can't we now say, okay, Dangote, well, you have done well for keeping the economy at this level, but the government too should have their own. If we cannot have refinery at that federal level, the government can also come up with a policy of allowing individuals to have modular refineries. Why are they stifling the economy that modular refineries cannot come up? If you open it up now that we should have a modular refinery, you can tell of the future. The prices will be regulated, and once the prices are regulated, it now becomes the bidders' war. People will be investing. The prices will on their own come down. If A is too high for me to go, I go to B. If B is too high for me to go, I go to C. But as it is now, it has been monopolized by a single man, and it's not yielding result for us, just like we have in the cement industry. How many people are supplying the whole country cement? Now that is what is playing out in this oil industry. So the subsidy removal they are talking about, to me, is a way of still stifling the Nigerian economy, the way of still inflicting more pains on the Nigerian economy and the citizens. And you know quite well that the whole Nigeria will run a monocultural economy, only one product, which is the oil. And when that oil suffers, every other person suffers automatically.
Okay.
It is a chain effect reaction. Like in mathematics in those days when we have if A over sine A. I don't know whether you did mathematics. B equals B. A over sine B equals to B over sine B equals C over sine C automatically. Once one is triggered, every other ones fall in line. So let us get our refineries in place. Even if it's taking us 2-3 years to put the refineries in place, let us suffer it. But we know that after that period, we are now having our own freedom to express ourselves economically.
Okay. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation has actually requested the sum of 3 trillion naira as fuel subsidy for 2022. Meanwhile, for 2021, they spent 1.2 trillion naira. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, stated that the current realities on ground, including lack of structures for now, has necessitated the NNPC to make the request. How do you see that?
That is exactly what we are still talking about. Last year you spent 1.2 trillion, you say?
Yes.
This 2022 we are talking of 3 trillion. Now the question goes back to square one. How much do we actually need to repair these refineries? Some government will tell you they have 4 cardinal points in their manifesto. It is not compulsory you meet those 4 in a particular year. Why don't we say, okay, we are stepping down some sectors of the economy. Let us plow that money into the repair of our refineries. Nigerians will all listen. Nigerians will all bear it. Nigerians, we are part of. I'm not using the word part. We are one of the easiest people to rule on this mother earth. Give them what they want, and everybody looks the other way. Whatever you do is no longer their business. You want to use 3 trillion to subsidize fuel. Still, you cannot raise even 500 billion to repair your refineries. You cannot raise 500 billion to organize a good election. You cannot raise 500 billion to put your agricultural sector in place. But you want to spend 3 trillion naira to subsidize fuel. And this fuel, by the time you even bring this fuel, it will further reduce the living standard of Nigerians, in the sense that for everything you do, you need fuel to run it, because the power sector is more or less not functioning. That is the whether, I don't know the name they call them now, whether BEDC or AKETC or this and that. Every area have their own. Now still the light is not improving. We have devalued every part of this country. Every part we have devalued. But one thing we have failed to devalue is our own self-character. And that is the cause of all these things we have. If we devalue our character and we devalue ourselves to the level that everybody wants to accept every other person, the love of your neighbor will be there. If we have the love of our neighbor, all these cries we've been having all these years about the high prices, and they will have been able to pin it to a particular point. What is the cause of these things? Why don't we deal with the cause instead of the effect? Like Awolowo told Shagari in their days, that the economy is going down. Don't deal with the effect of the economy. Deal with the cause. What is the cause of this thing? We were producing oil. We were producing oil. We were refining oil. Why is that all of a sudden the thing stopped? What stopped it? How can it all be put back in place? Who are the saboteurs, if at all? Who are the saboteurs? I knew quite from the one when they started building those farm tanks in Lagos, somewhere called the Warehouse Bus Stop. I knew there was going to be a problem in the nearest future. But everybody paid deaf ears into it. I pray and I pray that one day they will hear our cry and somebody that knows Joseph will occupy that seat.
Okay. Now, the sustenance of the subsidy results to more borrowings owing to the fact that we are already on a deficit budget. That means more debt. How does this affect the growth? How does this affect the economy?
Can I make reference to Kenya? Though it's a sovereign country of its own, but this for discussional sake, it affects everybody. Most of the assets have been taken over by the Chinese. Because you cannot owe somebody and at the same time tell the person what to do. It's your debtor that dictates, it's your creditor that dictates the tune. If we continue borrowing, like the Minister of Finance said, we have not exceeded our borrowing limit. Is it a budgetary matter that we must borrow? Is it a constitutional issue? Was it said in the Constitution that we must borrow up to a certain limit? If you continue borrowing and you don't have any plan to pay back, we are not Cuba. It is Fidel Castro that told the West that what he's doing is a Brady plan. And they asked, what does he mean by that? He said the Europeans they captured our forefathers as slaves. Therefore, our forefathers have paid their debts in advance. We are not Cuba, and we don't have that political will to make such a statement. And when we continue borrowing like this, what are we doing? We are jeopardizing the effects of our children yet unborn. Because one day, if no further oil wells are discovered, what we have in stock now cannot carry us for too long again. And once we go out of oil, we have closed every other sources of business of revenue generation in the country, right from when we discovered oil in 1958. Though it was not too much then, but people started looking at it that there is a better way than agriculture. They were still having the agriculture. We had the Granite Pyramid, we had the cocoa in the west, we have coal in the Enugu, several things like that. But when oil now came in large quantum, and you can sit down doing nothing and get enough money, they threw all those things away. Now, put yourself in the next 20, 40, 30 years. Most of us will not be around then. Our children will still be there. What happens when the oil dries up? Are we going to be better than Afghanistan?
Okay, before we go, do you think the delayed implementation of the Petroleum Industrial Act would affect investors' confidence?
Definitely it will. Because nobody wants to put his money where he cannot monitor. Nobody wants to put his money where he cannot make profit. Every business-minded man, the first thing in his mind is how to make profit. Though they have it profit and loss. It's just that because definitely one thing can happen along the line and you can incur losses. As it is now, people are not confident, 100% confident about the economy. They now bring in this money. Tomorrow we tell them you remove subsidy and the prices have skyrocketed. What happens to the investment? It further devalues the currency, and once it devalues the currency, it affects the profitability of the company. Every investor is a wise man, whether you are schooled or not. It's a wise man. So the shifting of the date for another 18 months is going to bounce back on the economy, because those who are ready to come with their money at a very particular exchange rate can no longer predict the future, and they want to hold back the investment and see what will happen.
Okay, very big thank you to our guest Odomo Ife, Chartered Accountant, Chartered Tax Practitioner. Thanks for coming on board.
Thank you for having me, and I also thank DBS for the good job they are doing.
Okay, this is what we wrap it up for today on the program Business Angle. Do well to join us same time next week Tuesday for another edition of the program. I'm Mercy Amarsawore.